Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. So I apologize because I will talk about banana again, but this time I will try to make it short. This afternoon I want to present you a bit the case study of the banana in the French West Indies. And I would like to show two aspects of this case study. First, it's the example of the design of the cover cropping systems. And in the second part, I will try to modestly present some explanations of why it was possible to change the system in this context. So, similarly to other pests and diseases, it was the system in the 90s were really relying on heavy pesticide use, especially for keeping the soil bare. For example, this is a typical photo of what we observed before in the French West Indies. It was really a completely bare soil, without not any single plant growing on the soil. So to do that, our hypothesis was that we should replace the use of herbicides by cover crops. So the problem was to select the most suitable cover crop for the system. Such a cover crop should provide a big set of services. First, it should be able to cover the soil. It should not create competition for water or nutrients with the main plant, the bananas. It should be tolerant to shade, of course, because at the beginning there is a bit of light, but when we have all the banana field, the canopy is quite closed. It should be technically compatible with the system, of course. If we keep a very tall grass or something that do not permit to the worker to pass in the field, it will not be possible. It should reduce pest and disease, or at least do not increase their population and their damages. It should be available, the seeds should be available, which is not a small issue, because especially in a context of tropical islands, often it's places that are protected in terms of importation of exotic species, so the seeds should be allowed for importation. It should, of course, have a good capacity to control weeds, and finally, if it improves the soil fertility, it is something very interesting as well. So, in the systems, we expected different services relying on a mechanism that were quite clear. First, it was the control of weed through the inhibition of germination, through allelopathy. It was already mentioned in one of the talks before. And it should intercept the resources that weeds could also use to develop, light, water, and nutrients. It should also be able to create a porosity and to protect the soil structure. According to the type of root system, a cover crop may have different effects on soil physical properties. For example, in some cases with a very strong pivot root, it might be able to create a macroporosity, while in some other cases, with this type of system, it could participate to enhance, to improve the microporosity of the soil. It's like a biological plowing. It should be able also to create porosity on an indirect way by enhancing the ecological engineers, such as earthworms. It could help to recycle nutrients through the nitrogen fixation and uptake deep elements. Especially in the case of banana, it was quite interesting because the banana root system is very not deep. It goes until 30, 40 centimeters maximum. And if we have a cover crop that is able to go to uptake nutrient on a deeper in the soil, and then when the biomass of the cover crop will decay in the surface of the soil, it can participate to put some nutrients available for the bananas. And finally, it should participate to the control of disease and pests, especially through their ostatue, eventually direct biocidal effects, and effect on associated diversity. For example, if it can enhance communities involved in the regulation of pests and diseases. This it was already mentioned before. Okay, so our approach to design a cover cropping system was to first characterize the potential species. Then we use also all the expertise on these plants and how we can use this, because it's not only the species themselves, but also the way to manage them. We developed also some tools and approaches to make the selection of the cover crop species to given context and to given use. And finally, we made a step-by-step improvement of the system. So what we did basically is that we measure all the functional traits of a very big set of cover crops. We screen more than 100 species and varieties of cover crops belonging to very different groups, such as very interesting groups like Crotalaria and leguminous species, etc. So we had a functional approach to help to select the most suitable species. It was based first on the service we expected. So it was the weed control, the maintenance of soil fertility, pest control, and no competition with bananas. Associated to each of the service, we define some functions. That, for example, for good weed control, it was likely that a crop that is covering the soil very fast, that is persistent, and that has a good barrier to germination will be efficient. For the reduction of the competition with bananas, it is based on the above ground and the underground mechanism. Associated to each of those functions, we define one or more traits that were something very interesting, because a functional trait is something that is really very easy to measure. For example, the dry matter content, nitrogen content, the height, the architecture. It is which are some traits that are easy to measure directly on the field. So based on the traits we measure on the field, we were able to assess their function and then the services that the cover crops may provide. Then we made such a profile of function for all the possible cover crops. It's an example. For example, here you have a species, and here are all the functions that are provided by this species. And we try to search which species is more able to satisfy the services we are expecting in a given context. For example, we can use the cover crop at 2 stages of the cropping system, in a fallow period or in intercropping. So in the fallow period, we have seen that this species can be very good for this type of fallow. These 2 species were very good for another type of fallow according to the context of the farmer, etc. So today we define a cropping system based on a really very diverse crops according to the soil context, to the capacity of the farmer to grow them, according to the conditions in terms of pests and disease, etc. So today we have nice systems like this one based on Arachis repens, another one like Dreamaria cordata. There is also to think that these cover crops are managed within the system. It's not something you put and you forget completely. There is to also rethink how we manage the system. For example, in such system, if we want to keep it efficient, it's better if you can manage the crop residues in one row, alternatively on one row, because like this you keep a nice cover on one row, and on the next one you put all the residues. We had also some other cover crop like this one, Neonotonia wicti, that were really very much adopted by farmers today because it's a leguminous crop. It has a pivot root that go to uptake nutrients very deep in the soil without creating competition with the bananas. It even increases the yield, in fact. Farmers also develop mechanized systems to manage this cover crop when needed, like this one, or direct seedling at initial stages. Okay, so we had quite a good experience, but I have to mention that it needed quite a lot of time also. When we first mentioned that, okay, to farmers, cover crop may be a good option for you because you are using a lot of herbicides, and maybe it should be helpful for you. First, they said no, it's completely impossible to do it because it will create a lot of issues. But a bit more than 10 years later, it's not us that makes the innovation. It is the farmers themselves that continue to develop, to implement the systems, and to improve it. So it's like the work of research was not to finalize a product that is finished, but to initiate a dynamic with farmers. And that is why what I would like to show you. I am not expert in the domain of adoption of innovation or so on, but it's like a bit my testimony in terms of how we can make a system change in a given context. Okay, so I repeat it, but because it's important, because it's part of the context. So the system we worked were in French places. It means they are in the French context in terms of regulation, in terms of social context, etc. So it was in the French islands in the Caribbean. The farmer in the Caribbean, the banana production is like the second economical, second economic important area in the islands. It is although the islands are quite small, there is an exportation of 270,000 tons of banana per year, and it participates to the work of more than 10,000 people. And the farms are quite different. There is some very small farms, like 2 hectares, up to bigger one, more, in fact, it's 400, 500 hectares. So this context of type of farm is also something important to take into account when developing new cropping systems. It's also very important to understand that as many export industry, it is very structured. It means to export, you need to have boats, you need to have management of containers, you need to have a lot of infrastructure. And this, it's important because when you have a structured production chain, it makes maybe things easier to change compared to farmers that are not so organized. So this is the evolution of the overall use of pesticides in the systems. So as I presented before in my other presentation, you see that there is a strong almost a disapparition of the use of nematicide and insecticides. The fungicide also were reduced a little bit, but the problem is not completely solved, and there is a moderate decrease of herbicide. Also, it tends to decrease more the last years. So, why it was possible to change the system from a very intensive system relying on pesticides to something a bit better? It's never perfect, of course, but it's clearly better. First, it's the regulation. Under the demand of the society, I think it's one key element. Also, yes, the research is something very important, but maybe the part of the research is not only to give the good practices to the farmer, but also to show to the whole society that there is other means to produce. And when the society and the authorities are convinced that it is possible, usually they will change and make regulation to force farmers to change. And I think regulations were really something very important. And since we had many scandals associated to pesticide use, I see that we talked earlier this afternoon about organochlorine insecticide, and yes, we had this before, and like this one, and for sure it's a big issue because it's a long-term issue, and it was really a shock in those islands. The media has played a very important role as well, because they make the whole society aware that there was really a big problem, and this influence also the farmers, because they are responsible. They understand that it is some big issues they have to deal with. And the whole society, when you see, for example, this is the current Ministry of Ecology and Environment of France, and he visited our research. And when you convince people like at this level of the authorities, it has a big effect then on the decisions and on the process to go toward something more clean. The second thing, it was the awareness of farmer. Now it changed totally. In 10 years, as I told you, before farmers are fighting for that they can keep the use of all the pesticides they are used to apply on their farm. And now it changed completely. Farmers are taking care of their image, or how the society see their production and their activity. You see, this is example of photos that were used in communication towards in the media or in the society, where farmers are shown as people that take care of their environment. And this, I think, it was also a key element, because if you don't have the approval of farmers, it's not very likely that they will change. And this, it also has some effect at the communication level of the farmers themselves. For example, this is a very recent advertising where farmers are really promoting that their production is clean, and they try to demonstrate that their production is more clean than other area of production in the world. Another key element of why it has changed is the structuration of the research at the continuum between research and farmers. Before, maybe it's not the case everywhere in France, and maybe Jean-Noël will present a different point of view, but in those islands that are a bit isolated, there was the research and there was the farmer. Of course, there were contact, but researchers are not very good to communicate and to disseminate their knowledge. And the creation of extension services, of technical institutes, has played a big role in the success to change the production in this area. For example, this is the Tropical Technical Institute in these two islands that is very active in promoting how the result of the research can be adapted directly for farmers. And you see, they make a lot of groups to disseminate the information, and they are very up to date to the newest results of the research. And I think this link between research up to farmers were a key element in the success of changing the systems. So it was really making the gap between farmer and research smaller. And the last element of change, it was that we didn't change in 1 year. As I told you, the first perception of more clean agriculture of farmer was very hard. They were not so aware of the problem, they don't want to change, etc. So it's important to have in mind that it is a step-by-step approach. This is also an example. We started from bare soil and almost no fallow period, and bit by bit, generation after generation, year after year, we improve the system with the farmers. And now the next generation are basically developed by the farmers themselves. What research is currently doing, is giving new mechanisms that the farmer could include in the design of new generation, but the design of the coming steps are carried out by the farmers themselves. So I would like to summarize that it was really very important to do the design in farm with farmers, and that they are involved since the beginning. And we use, of course, a lot of research based on experimental station, but it was more used to dig the mechanism that are needed to build a new system, but the systems themselves are built in farm with farmers. To go further in the future, that's not the case so much for the moment. I think that and maybe it will be the case for many agricultural production area, it's to give a value to a clean, sustainable, fair products coming from agriculture. For example, two weeks ago, the producer from this region began to make a label of equitable, sustainable, fair production for fair banana production from French West Indies. And it's a big change, because what they are expecting is to have an added value in terms of price of their effort. It's a pity it was not the case since the beginning, but as it is a world market, as the banana is a very standardized product, it's not so easy to make it different. I think it will be maybe the case also for rice, for other fruits in general, and being able to create labels, to be able to give a value to what is produced is something very important in the future. To finish, I would like to make a little citation of Stephen Hawking that left us yesterday about the fact that the future is not fixed. We can still do some improvement. We still at the research, at extension services, at the authorities to make agriculture moving forward. And I think it's quite stimulating for us to be at this moment, because we have a big challenge, of course, but we also it's at us to build it. Thank you very much for your attention.